welcome back to another episode with Bros Who Closed. We've got our first guest today in the house.
First ever guest.
Simon Lynn.
Simon Lynn.
I feel really privileged. It's touching that I'm the first
We gotta
guest.
do our fist pump.
Fist pump.
The way we're seating, we gotta I gotta pass it down. Welcome, man.
Yeah, thank you guys. This is really nice to be the first guest and privileged to be here.
Yeah,
And
man,
you know
looking
what
sharp as
what I
always.
like
Thank
is
you.
you're dressed to the nines, dude.
Well, I gotta dress the part with the name of our company, Bespoke Mortgage Group. You know.
So let me do an introduction. Yeah, because Simon comes with a lot of strong background, as you can tell by the way he's dressed. He's all business. He's all business. All right. So Simon Lynn. Co-founded Bespoke Mortgage Group. What a sexy name, right? Started 10 years ago. So that's his company, mortgage broker in the mortgage business. You always dressed like that?
Just today. I knew I was coming on this show, so I felt like I gotta keep up with Sid and Saurabh. So
Whatever, Simon. He's always dressed like that.
I'm so casual. Like you're gonna have to.
But it looks good though, man. It
looks
looks like the casual, like that. It's casual, but you make it look good.
Thanks, man. I like the
I
casual.
went over to Simon's house for dinner the other day, and he was dressed like that, cooking dinner.
No.
I can see it.
So tell us a little bit about your journey, Simon. I know you started Bespoke Mortgage Group about 10 years ago, but take us from the very beginning.
Yeah, how did the name come about, Bespoke? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, just a play off of the English custom suits and, really seeing what we do with mortgages, and we try to customize it for people's individual needs. Hence, Bespoke, Customize Mortgage Group. That's how we kind of ran and played with that name.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then you started 10 years ago?
10 years ago, I co-founded Bespoke Mortgage Group. Prior to that, I was a mortgage agent with another network, Mortgage Intelligence, as a mortgage agent. But then soon realized that I needed to do something a little bit more and creating my own name and company.
Nice,
Okay.
Nice. And you started in the mortgage business 24 years?
22 years ago.
And this was right out of school?
I had just graduated out of college for computer networking. And, getting contract jobs, it just wasn't paying the bills, and bills don't wait.
Yeah.
So, decided to...
Wait, you're telling me you weren't dreaming as a kid? Like, when I grow up, I'm going to be a mortgage broker.
Is
that what you're telling me?
At the time, no, Sid. But, I guess fate took me in the right direction. And I originally started as working contract jobs and working the evenings at Holt Renfrew selling fragrances.
Right. Wow.
That's awesome. This is how old were you then?
Just 20, around 20 years old.
Okay.
21, and actually 22, sorry. And selling fragrances for $25 an hour back then was
a lot of money.
A lot of money. So
you're getting $25 an hour selling fragrances.
Handing out blotters to ladies that would walk by Holt Renfrew, and it was a lot of fun, to be honest. And it was at the time great money, but that coupled with I had picked up a factory job picking parts during the day, and then selling fragrances in the evening, trying to make ends meet to pay off my student loan, which was quite big at the time. And a friend of mine that was in the mortgage industry, saw potential in myself and told me to come work with him full time. And I had no idea about mortgages, didn't own any real estate myself at the time. I took a leap of faith and got into it. Started off as his assistant, started at the bottom, and then slowly worked my way up to being a mortgage agent. Fast forward, 12 years later, opening up my own brokerage at Bespoke Mortgage Group.
Wow, that's incredible, man. I feel like, most salespeople I talk to that are in the sales industry, everything is sales, right? When we talk about real estate, mortgages, selling fragrances, right? It's all sales, dude, at the end of the day. And everybody has the same trajectory. They almost accidentally fall into the business. They've never planned it I'm going to graduate and go into mortgages or go into real estate or, sell cars or whatever, right? They end up somehow there, they find their calling and they find that they have some natural ability. So was it you who discovered it, or somebody else saw, you said earlier, saw in you characteristics of being in this business?
Someone else saw it and really gave me the push to joining. He's like, if nothing else, you at least you know how to write your own mortgage.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, let me try it out. And once I got in, it was hard. It's hard to leave.
Right.
So you kind of went from, getting a salary, getting a paycheck every 2 weeks, because you were getting $25 an hour. Were you also getting commission on those?
It was commission, and I was kind of like moonlighting, being at Holt Renfrew and then doing mortgages on the side. And then just slowly, like, things started picking up. I started getting some deals and realizing my potential on, if I only concentrated that much more on mortgages, the potential is sky's the limit, right? So I started focusing more of my energy and time on what was going to make me more money.
Nice.
Yeah.
And tell us maybe through your first year, like what are the biggest challenges? Like what did you learn? Some of the failures maybe that you experienced?
Funny story. When I first started, working with my friend who brought me into the industry, back then we had fax machines, and I was working in his home office, and I'd networked the computers. There's like 2 or 3 computers in this home and a fax machine. And I saw in the fax machine every day I'd come in, faxes just coming in with like MLS and purchase and sale agreements. I'm like, oh, that's so easy, right? But like, I'm sitting here, but like, why are no faxes coming in for me, right? And he's like, Simon, I don't know what you're doing here, right? But like, you're wasting your time. You need to go out. You need to be seen and get business in, right? And so I think it was like around 6 months where I was just like twiddling my thumbs in the office, and he finally gave me a push to kick me out. It's like, you need to be on the streets bringing some business in. So at that point, I'd called a friend of mine who I'd played soccer with that owns a Remax brokerage. And it just so happened that he had a spot for me and to be an in-house mortgage broker.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
So that's how I got my start and building my database, being in front of realtors every day and getting those leads. And that's where kind of the trajectory from there kind of went off, right?
Yeah. I find the mortgage space very interesting. As real estate agents, we're mostly, I would say, going after end clients, right? When you're at a certain level, you're also collaborating, right, with business owners. But I think for the most part, most realtors are going after clients. In the mortgage industry, you guys are like you guys are targeting realtors and also clients, and and there's different ways to prospect, right? So was that something that
it's probably one of their pillars, right?
One of your pillars.
Yeah.
Is
So it's
real
like
estate.
how we have different pillars within the real estate industry. I think for the mortgage industry, is probably like agents, probably one pillar of support. And then, your direct clients, and maybe there's more pillars within the industry.
Definitely realtors in my story got me my start,
right?
Building my database. And then touch points in your database, that's one bucket and streamline of revenue coming in, as well as realtors. But then it slowly branched off to financial advisors, mobile mortgage specialists that can't do certain like B deals or private deals. And then there's the divorce lawyers, right? That is constantly feeding deals from people needing financing after being split up.
Right.
It's like, I don't know what the stat is these days, but more than 50% of people actually get divorced, right? So that has been a pretty big source of referrals.
Yeah. How important was building relationships in your business to, build that network and build the client base that you have?
Extremely big, and it still continues to today, right? You if you don't continuously work on building relationships and just concentrate on your database, eventually that dries up, right? You're constantly needing to meet new people, get more referral sources. And for me, I like that side of the job. I like, it's very personal. I like socializing. Look, that's how I met you guys, right? It's all part of the fun of the job.
Yeah, exactly, man. I think networking, I think going back to any, sales companies out there, I think network is probably one of the biggest part of being an entrepreneur, right? Like if you're not constantly networking, if you're not constantly going after business, constantly meeting new people, I think business ultimately just drives away or
100%.
drives off.
We were talking about this right before the podcast. We were talking about how sales is sort of sales, and regardless of industry, right? You got to build that pipeline because it dries up. So I know we're going through a bit of a slower season, if you want to call it that, right now. Also because it's winter and then things are kind of uncertain. But how do you prepare for? Because you've got, how big is your team? You said
we have 6 full-time underwriters and 40 agents.
Wow, 40 agents and 6 full-time underwriters. So that's a big crew. So how do you make sure that you're talking to your team about making sure their pipeline stays full, regardless of the type of economic environment we're in?
Just constant reminders, Sid, of every day and day in, day out doing the same thing that's producing you business, whether it is going out for lunches with realtors, whether it's sending out emails to your database, just constantly doing something, as opposed to, like myself, just sitting in an office waiting for the fax machine to receive purchase and sale agreements doesn't work, right? Like, you need to be, if your phone is not ringing, you're making somebody else's phone ring.
Yeah.
To generate those deals, to be constantly having the pipeline consistent during times of winter or fall seasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So true, man. It's your pipeline's always got to be full, and you always have to be taking action and doing something to, even in times where things are hot, you constantly need to keep filling that pipeline because it's going to dry up at some point.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that top of mind, right? I think that's very important for anyone. It's if you're not top of mind all the time, whether it's through emails or phone calls or reminders or lunches or whatever have you, you forget about that person. So, and it's the same with our business too, right? It's if I'm not constantly top of my clients or constantly not, if they're not constantly getting something from us, we're not going to be top of mind. And the next agent would be top of mind, whoever that agent may happen to be.
Yeah. So let's talk about a brand new mortgage agent, right? Starts in the business. How can they get started, and what should they really be doing? If you could go back to that time when you were sitting waiting for the fax machine to sort of come bring you deals, what would you do differently if you went back?
I don't think I had the social media platforms when I first started. There wasn't like a database of people that I can connect with. It was just people that I had in my flip phone at the time, like saved contacts. I would just kind of go through and call each one of them. So for someone that's starting out today with like Instagram contacts or Facebook contacts, just reach out to every single one of them one by one. And not really talking about business. It's just, seeing how that other person is doing, reaching out and talking about, life in general. And then in return, you may get a 10, 30 second, they're going to return and ask you a question.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And that's your time to shine. Describing what you do.
Man, social media, when you think about it, is such a powerful tool. You know why? It's free marketing, number one, right? There's absolutely no cost to it. You can start an Instagram, TikTok account. I'm not that present on TikTok, but I know there's powerful. YouTube, I'm big on as well, and I'm constantly posting stuff out there. It's free, number one. Number two, people always talk about, videos only getting 50 views or 200 views or 1,000 views. And I saw something recently that blew my mind. Do you know what a room full of 50 people look like?
It's a lot of people.
Imagine you had a room with 50 people and you're talking about something. That's a lot of people that you're talking to.
Yeah, I mean, we threw an event, and that was about 50 people. The last time we threw an event, it's a lot of people. And here's the thing. You're not having one-on-one conversations anymore.
Right.
You're not talking to 150 people all at once. Right? So I think that's very powerful.
Yeah, you don't need things to go viral and have millions of views or hundreds of thousands even, right? Like my YouTube channel, for example, that's my dog.
That's your, it's like you got clients out there.
It's not an attack dog. It's a little dachshund. I don't know if you've seen my dog. She's going to be in the podcast. Okay. Where was I? YouTube. And, on YouTube, I don't get a lot of views, but I get business from it because I'm going after very specific people, right? And I'm able to generate business. So is that something you encourage to your team?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it all ties in, social media, the YouTube videos, just things that consumers can see that you're active, you're in real estate, you're in mortgages, right? And they all kind of tie in together in the sense that if somebody's coming to me for mortgages and it was referred by Saurabh, let's say, for example, and they type in Simon Lin and YouTube comes up, Instagram comes up, Facebook comes up, and all these different things that I'm tweeting about or messaging about mortgages, it just gives confirmation that Simon is an advocate of mortgages, right? So
social proofing, that's what they're doing.
Social proofing, right? So it all kind of ties in. It may not directly get you business right away, Sid, but it all ties in, I feel like. So
100%.
Whether you're a new agent, highly recommend creating all these, platforms, Google reviews, just for, social proofing, right? So it's just, I think all of them goes a long way, and you should be doing every single one of them if you can, because they're free.
They're free. They're free, and there's no reason in this day and age to not have a social media presence. It's funny, when I look up anything that I'm doing, any kind of business I'm hiring for, or somebody I'm looking to do business with, I look them up on social media.
It's so true, man.
And because I want to see, what's your other side? Like, are you a real person?
Totally.
For some reason, I want to see.
Sorry. I feel like there's like a proportion of like the 80-20 rule, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe 20% business and 80% of showing people that you're actually a human being. I've got a family. I've got, an outside of mortgages. Yeah. Right.
I love that about your social media, because you have a lot of your personal stuff. You got your kids, you got your wife. It shows a human side of you. Mm-hmm. And for a long time, people would not want to show that because they thought, I have to be strictly business or professional. But then you take away the human side of you. And when I see stuff like that, I'm like, Simon
is a person.
It's a person. Exactly. But most importantly, there's a relatability factor, right? Oh, Simon plays pickleball, or Simon does this, right? And I always tell people this. I go, you're not going to attract everybody. And I don't want to attract everybody. Mm-hmm. I want to attract the people that I know. That I connect with, right? My tribe. And it's okay if I lose some people that maybe have tattoos and they don't resonate with me. That's okay. But
they were not meant to you. They were not meant to be anyway. Listen, there's enough business to go around for everybody. I think, you connect your tribe. Talking back about social proofing, I think that, I remember this one story of one of our clients, and it was a cold lead. It had just come through Facebook. Well, I shouldn't say cold, it's warm, right? Because he clicked one of our ads. Right. Came in. I'm talking to this guy about Calgary real estate, I still remember, and also Toronto real estate. And he stops me, and I could just feel the call, after 2 minutes of conversation with this guy, and I'm not feeling him, right? He's not really coming across, and he's very still reserved. And I go, hey man, how much of I've just said to you do you actually believe? Right? And it just cracked him up. And I said, can you do me a favor? Can you just go to, and I gave him my Instagram handle. Mm-hmm. And he went right away on his cell phone. I'm like, do you have your cell phone on you? He goes, yeah. I'm like, can you go to this handle? And he saw me. I'm like, that's me. I'm like, can you go to Google? And he went to Google. I said, put in Teams for Real Estate. Mm-hmm. And he did. And that flipped the call. Mm-hmm. And ended up selling him 3 properties over the last.
Yeah, he was able to connect you to a real person and go, that's him. Oh, that's Simon. Oh, he's got a wife and kids. Yeah. He's got a family. He actually has hobbies and interests outside of mortgages. He's a real person. Yeah.
Exactly, right? Just to humanize you, it's just, it goes a long way, as opposed to just, what am I tasked doing? Is it just selling this property, or we're going to build a relationship so we can sell multiple properties or buy multiple properties, not just this one transaction? Yeah. And that's what we try to do, more so in every call and every client that we get. We try to probe and find out certain interests and relate with them, while at the same time trying to find their mortgage qualifications, right? It's not just about numbers. It's not just about interest rates. We look at current and future goals and provide recommendations on, what they should be doing.
Yeah, I always look at, leads, if you want to call them prospects, as when they first are, unless it's a complete referral, but even referrals to some extent, everybody starts off with a wall, right? And your job as a salespeople is to bring that wall down and bring it down and bring it down so that they get comfortable with you and they can really open up. Because at the end of the day, we can only advise as good as how willingly they're able to collaborate with us and give us the information,
that we need.
And so everything is just tearing down, bring that wall down a little bit slowly.
Exactly. No, definitely.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a question. So you got to tell us stories from, this thing is all about stories.
Yeah.
So tell us the most memorable story of a deal maybe that, you closed. That you closed. Yeah. It could be from your first year. It could be from yesterday.
It could be from yesterday, yeah.
It could be just like, oh man, I got to tell this fucking story.
One you're doing right now.
Well, actually, it's funny story because this client just recently came back. It was maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. I was working on this file and holding their hand on telling them what numbers they should be working with, how much they can afford. Sometimes they put in 30 different offers. And at that time there was multiple offer bidding. We had to go in with no conditions. So I'm holding their hand at each time and sometimes 9, 10 o'clock at night while they're putting in offers. So only lo and behold for them getting a house and then literally 3 days before closing, gets swiped up and goes to a different bank, and I think at the time it was for rate. So instead of getting upset and throwing in their face that I wasted all this time with them and I didn't get paid on it because if I don't close, that we don't get commissions, right? Instead, I changed my mindset and said, you know what? Congratulations on your new house. I wish you all the best. And please keep in contact with me. So when your mortgage comes up for renewal, or if you're looking to buy any other investment properties, to make sure to keep in contact. And throughout those years, I continuously send out updates or newsletters or kept in contact. Lo and behold, they just came back and we just closed their deal on their refinance.
Yeah.
So that goes to show that story that it's never the end. Whether they don't end up using you at this exact time.
Yeah.
It's not to be freaked out and totally cut that or break that bridge.
Yeah.
Right? You'll always never burn bridges, right? Yeah. You'll always
and don't be short-sighted.
Exactly.
Everything. So true, man. I think it goes back to, what we talk about a lot and what I think we share as a group here is having that abundant mindset. Mm-hmm. Is that it's okay, it's a deal. It's gonna be there's plenty of more deals out
plenty
there.
More to deal with.
Plenty more deals. And important lesson there is I'm not gonna burn a bridge with this person.
No.
Yeah. Right? And it goes back to relationships and how that's important to maintain.
Yeah, you're not a one deal pony. All you're trying to do is you're trying to build a relationship. Hey, you're not getting this one? Sure, no problem. I'll get the next one.
Exactly.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
A great story, man.
That just came to mind because we just closed their mortgage last week, right? And it was
how good did that feel when that happened?
It proves to me that holding back your inner feelings and just taking a bit of moment to think about it and then just rolling out with something that actually makes sense in the long run as opposed to just doing what's on your mind at that exact moment.
It's so funny that you said that story because I recently, actually last year, I was working with a couple who were looking in Toronto, and then I spent quite a lot of time, showing them properties and BRA sign and everything. I always make sure we have that understanding from the jump, and they ultimately ended up changing their mind and wanted to move to Kitchener. And they had another agent there that they wanted them to represent. I was like, no problem, fine. And I followed up with them to make sure, hey, did you guys find something? And I congratulated them. Very similar story. And lo and behold, they send me referrals all the time because I'm just in touch. He sent me his brother-in-law, which I gave to Chad, and then and now I'm continuing to get more business, right? So it just goes to show that maintaining that relationship and not having that I think it's okay to be upset internally for a bit. I think that's human nature.
And you just move right on.
You just move right on. You collect your shit. You're like, all right, I'm going to be all right.
Because you could either focus on that failure, and we just had an episode on failure. You could either focus on that failure, or you could just say you know what, it's okay. I have more now for 30 seconds. This is not time to move on because there's other stuff that I need to do another day. Right?
That's totally true.
Yeah,
totally true.
I was going to ask. So fun fact about Simon. Actually, I'll let you say the fun fact that Simon is from Jamaica.
Yeah. That is true. That is
true. I can
see
it. I can see it.
I won't show it on this podcast, but back in my younger days, I just I'll leave it for another podcast. But
I can see it.
So you got to give the audience some cool Jamaican words.
some cool Jamaican words.
Let's have a Jamaican trivia.
Jamaican.
Well, I just we're talking before the podcast started, but like my kids just recently went over to my mom and my grandmother's house, and it was snowing outside, and they're like, Benjamin, Naomi, you don't see the snow, right? And so I was like, my kids were just like, looked at me. It's like, what is snow, right? And it's like, the snow. So Jamaican,
snow.
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 That's so
We'll
cool.
perfect it. We'll perfect it.
So do you cook? So your background, your parents are from Jamaica.
Parents born and raised there.
So
both
do
sides.
they identify as like Chinese Jamaican? Like what's the
Chinese Jamaican.
Okay.
Like I am married to Hong Kong Chinese. My wife is from Hong Kong Chinese. Her family's from Hong Kong, and they are. You can see the differences between like the true Chinese as opposed to Chinese Jamaican. Right? There's
What, Chinese Jamaican, not Chinese, Simon? Is that what you're saying?
well, it's like. There's that typical, like, you gotta do your math class after school math classes. There's violin, there's piano, whereas like
very Asian.
very Asian. Whereas Chinese Jamaican, it's like just whatever makes you happy. Just everything is Irish. Pretty laid back.
You didn't get the whoopings, or you got the
Well,
whoopings?
definitely got whoopings. Like there's certain
true.
things like you didn't say thank you, you didn't say greet your elders, or like it was there was certain like things in that sense, but. Everything else was pretty easygoing in my life.
Did you guys, did your parents cook Jamaican food growing up?
Yeah. Actually, Saurabh had the opportunity to come over and have oxtail
that's right. He was telling
and
me about
curry
it.
goat.
It was, okay, so apparently it was so good, he had to talk about it for the following week, because I heard all about it.
Well, Sid, you
never
got to
got
come
the
over
invite.
too. Yeah, you and Chloe got to come over and
You
have
hyped it up
some.
so much. It was
Now
good,
I'm like,
buddy.
We got to play it down because I don't want like it comes out and he's like,
I still have the
this is
curry.
like-
I gotta just put shrimp in it.
Yeah.
I'm frozen it. It's really good.
yeah.
So how did your upbringing, because you were saying earlier that you grew up in Jamaica until you were 5 years old, and then you came to Toronto, and then you grew up in Toronto. So I always feel that to be an entrepreneur, to have that mindset of being an entrepreneur, like, everything happens for a reason, and your upbringing in childhood and, whatever you had to overcome. I think a lot of it has to do with how successful you are, at least I believe that. Mm-hmm. Do you have a similar story, or do you believe in similar things?
I do, right? Like having the ability to after 5, going back to Jamaica for summers and Christmases. I still spent a good time out of the year back in Jamaica, and where my dad and his family lived in the parish of St. Elizabeth. It's a very remote area of Jamaica. Wasn't like a big city or town. And the kids that I hung out and grew up with over there didn't have the same same sort of things that I have here in Toronto.
Yeah.
Opportunities, and just what we did on a regular day there is not the same thing that I would do with friends back home in Toronto, right? We would go playing in rivers, or if we had a soccer ball, sometimes there weren't soccer balls available. Like that would be hours of playing, and just there was no video games, there was no TV or screen time. That was not a function. But finding or seeing that other side of life, I think, gave me the opportunity to see a life in a different lens of we're fortunate here, and having the need or want for grit and bettering myself and livelihood, I think related to my entrepreneurship and goal setting that I have now today in my business.
I think it plays a part, right? When you come from an environment, or at least you were exposed to an environment, even if you didn't grow up there, knowing that, what's on the other side puts things into perspective for you, and you're able to be grateful, mindful, and be able to see the opportunities you have versus people who are never exposed to that, and they pretty much take it all for granted. And there's definitely a huge role, I'm sure, in your journey that it played a part in your success.
Yeah, definitely. Like it just, I think we're all very fortunate to be where we are today. And just, I think just seeing that what people go through on a day-to-day life in Jamaica gives me the drive that I'm fortunate here, and I need to take advantage of those fortunes and succeed and doing things and having grit to succeed because I'm given the opportunity here in Toronto.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true, man. And, you know, we had an episode, like, you know, it's a short episode, so just before this, you know, we talked about failures, right? And how important, I guess, failures is to be a stepping stone almost to, you know, to be successful in life, right? How's your experience been? What do you feel about, you know, failing and then, you know, learning from failures and success?
Like, you know, we all know in being entrepreneurship, you need failure to succeed, right? And there's different things. I can't say my road when we first opened Bespoke Mortgage Group has been an easy sail. There's always been pits and valleys in this road in the last 10 years. But what I can say is that where we've had these failures or pits and valleys, it's we get up, we get back up on our feet right away. We learn from these experiences, change our processes and tweaks. We don't just sit there and dwell on what happened. We make changes. We put things into action in order to getting the success that we've had over the last 10 years.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. I
want to switch. Sorry, no, I was just going to ask, is there a particular you know, timeline that you could think of that, like, you know, you really had a massive learning and...
Yeah, you'd have a moment of failure, like you failed really bad and then you bounce back.
Yeah. Like, even when you started the Bespoke Mortgage Group or since then, any kind of experiences that you had that you really recall, like, oh man, like, you know, had this not happened, I wouldn't be here. Or it was really truly a pivotal moment of being... something failed, and then you just, you know, got up and kind of your trajectory went, you know, it really took off.
Well, during the pandemic, we've had like a lot of agents just, you know, because there's so much business during the pandemic that everybody wanted to become a mortgage broker. And anyone who got their license, it was like printing money.
Right.
Deals were just coming in. And then afterwards, when, you know, interest rates started going up, you know, deals started to become fewer, harder to get. You had to really work for it. A lot of these agents just sort of fell off. And I think where we kind of sidestepped and, you know, changed our contracts to, you know, anyone joining us, there was like a monthly fee that we would charge to sort of deter people from just having a license and parking it there, cleaning up the people that weren't doing business. So just kind of, I wouldn't say really a failure, but just like a sidestepping to order to grow and be successful with the core group that we have in order to have focus and time on those, that group that is actually working day in and day out.
And that's very important, right, to have the right team. And I think we kind of went through a very similar thing. Like during the pandemic, I think we had, you know, we started the team and we were hiring a few agents, and then, you know, it didn't really work out. So
yeah, I kind of want to touch on that. It's a perfect segue because I was going to talk to you about delegation, right? So you've got 40 agents and 6 underwriters. What point, so you started the company 10 years ago, co-founded it, and at what point did you do your first hire?
So when my business partner and I first started, we were both working our book of business and our database with solo. We had no staff. We were grinding every day, working 12, 13 hours a day. And then I had my first child, my son, and then realized that 12, 13 hours a day is just not possible, right? Especially with sleepless nights, it just doesn't work, right? So we realized that we need to delegate and find a hire. But finding people, it's not as easy as it sounds, right? Finding the characteristics of what's going to work with us is very challenging. So we went through a lot of different people in order to getting the core group that we have today.
Yeah. What do you think is the most challenging part of finding the right person to be a part of your team?
You know, we went through a lot of resumes and a lot of interviews. And I would say our experiences with finding that person and having them look really great on paper doesn't always portray to them actually fitting into our culture and in our environment. And I think what we notice with the ones that have been with us for a long time now, the characteristics that we saw in those people were not how much knowledge they know or how much experience they have in the industry. It's the personality of grit and empathy is what we have experienced success with in those people that we've found today.
So how do you test somebody's grit and personality when you're first meeting somebody?
I think it's just asking them questions and more stories like what you guys have asked today and what they've experienced in their own roles, whether it be in the real estate industry or financing industry. It doesn't really matter. I think it's just the way how they perceive things and find solutions to those problems is the success of one's ability to succeed in this industry.
Yeah.
And it's so important, right? Because it's so true. Like, I mean, I think you can teach a lot of those technical skills after the fact, but if you just have the wrong hire, it doesn't really matter how much technical skills they have or how knowledgeable they are if they don't fit your culture.
Yeah.
I think you would just that's the recipe for failure right there for that particular
Culture is
hire.
a huge one, and also seeing, we started doing disc assessments a while ago based on a coach's advice, and we found that kind of shows you a lot of the personality side of somebody too. Like salespeople fall into a certain disc profile, administrative fall into a certain profile, right? So everybody's got a role. Not necessarily can be part of your team, but it does help you sort and organize.
Right.
You ever made a wrong hire?
Yeah. We've gone through quite a bit of those, and it's not as easy with like firing someone is not my forte.
Right.
But it's just it's sometimes you got to rip off the Band-Aid in order to get to where you want to go, right?
Yeah. What's that saying? Hire slow, fire fast.
That's right.
Yeah.
Do you use a Jamaican accent when you fire?
Just to
Fired!
make it
Fired! Got the hand sign in there, you know.
Peace out!
If you said that to some, I don't think they'd feel bad.
They'll laugh on the way out.
On the way out. Give them some patties. Send them on the way.
That's a good idea, Sid. I
Some
may have to
patties
do
and
that.
festivals.
Yeah.
You guys have festivals, right?
Festivals, that's more of a Trinity thing, but
that's
we
a
do
Trinity
have,
thing.
we do have.
Jamaican patties. Wrong.
No. I
Yeah,
know,
that's
but-
okay. That's
Wrong Caribbean country.
Uncultured, buddy. Uncultured. Here's some goat curry on the way out.
yeah. Too
Awesome,
funny.
man. Where can people find you?
We're info@bmtgg.ca or simon@bmtgg.ca. It's the best way, email or telephone 416-451-7417.
I love that. Flurry of text messages right after the episode.
Right.
Our social, what can they find you on social?
What is my social handle?
Simon
_ Lynn, I think it is.
You don't send him to the wrong different.
Yeah,
mortgage
you imagine
broker.
that there is another Simon Lynn, but he's
I'll give you guys the right one.
Well, this was a lot of fun, Simon.
Simon _
thank you so
Lynn.
much. This was a lot of fun, and hopefully to see you guys again.
Yeah, and we
on the
popped our
show.
cherry as the first guest.
Yeah, this is great. This is great. And have to have you over for some oxtail and
Please.
curry goat. Yeah,
Yeah.
We gotta see
and
if
some those patties.
Yes.
Did you enjoy those patties?
Everything homemade?
Man. Everything was homemade.
Everything's homemade. Yeah, the patties were made by my aunt,
way.
and the oxtail and curry goat were homemade.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
What was his social? Simon
Simon _ Lynn.
Thank you.
Simon
Thank you. Yeah.
LYN.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks.
Well,
thanks for
thanks
joining
again,
us.
Yeah, appreciate it, boys.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
There you go.